Streaming. We should be. All right, we're streaming. All right, so how to UV stuff. So theoretically, once you have a finished spaceship, which this was donated courtesy of Derek Martin in morning class, whole thing, original work by him. All right. When you have a 3D object and you want to texture it, all right, you can't just bring this into like Substance Painter or, you know, whatever else we got, which we're just going to do old school Photoshop texturing. Basically what that means is that we have to define what the UV coordinates for our model is going to be, okay? So the best way to explain a UV and like how a UV works and like what it is God, what is it? Santa chocolate. All will be revealed shortly, don't worry. Okay. This is perfect. All right. So we've got on our right, we've got our 3D model, and on our left, this is our UV map. Okay, this is our texture. This is where everything lives. We have to define that in Maya. We have to tell it, all right, what is it, like, what is this mapped out on? So another way to think about it is like you have a model and you have to skin it so it lays flat. All right, so you have to kind of like think about, you know, where am I going to project my 3D model and where am I going to like define the like the coordinates for my map. So let's say we've got a finished spaceship and we want to start doing that process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this little guy up here that says UV, and I'm going to click on the very first thing that says UV editor. And once you do that, it should open up a like a window that looks just like this, okay? When I've got this highlighted, like I've got my model highlighted, these are the UVs of the model. So Maya, by default, whenever you have like primitives, it has UVs already done for you. Okay, so this is a cube. It's already got the UVs laid out. Okay, so this is one face. This is another one. This is another one. And it's all laid out to where they're connected as much as they can be, and they're not stretched at all. So if I turn on my checker box, so you can actually see, this is laid out perfectly. We have no stretching. We've got, you know, no crazy weird transformations going on. We don't have anything like that. However, if we go back to our over here, we've got, this is pretty decent. That's not horrible. This needs worked on. This is awful right here. And then this is stretched so bad that we need to fix that entirely. All right. The reason why that is happening is because this stuff was extruded. Okay. UVs don't automatically get fixed once they get extruded. Okay. So the best way to do this, especially if your model is made up of multiple pieces, would be to go to separate them all out. So I'm going to do control right click separate. And then I'm going to UV all this stuff independently. And then we're going to lay it all out a little bit better. So I'm actually kind of happy with how this is right now. I'm not worried about that. There's some stretching going on, so we might fix that. So let's do a box first. Let's do like this boxy part. The best way to do this, or let me say the easiest way to do this, is with your thing selected that you want to UV, you go up to UV, and we've got 3 options here for how to project the way that we create the UVs, okay? So the first thing that I want you to look at, you see this thing that says camera based? If I click on that, it creates sort of like this snapshot of my 3D model based around where the camera was. All right, this is a quick and easy way to just get the entire UV out there. And then what we could do is we can go and create a seam. So if I highlight this edge, and if I go and I right click on here and I hit cut, we can look at our UV. Anything that's a bold white line, that is a cut seam. Okay, so if I right click on this again and I hit unfold, Maya will do its very best to try to unfold that UV as much as it can. Okay, UVing is very frustrating. It's a very tedious task, especially if you don't know how to do it. Okay, always click on the checkerboard and it'll apply a thing. You really want the least amount of stretching as possible, and you also need to make sure you lay it out in a way that makes sense. Okay, so we could do let's look at planar projecting. Actually, you know what, there's a way better way of doing this. So I'm gonna do all these edges, and then those are going to be my seams. All right, so I've got like 4 cut seams. I go back to my thing. I'm going to tell them to cut that, and then I'm going to tell them to unfold it. All right, we get a little bit better. Why did that not do it? We get a little bit of a better thing going on here. So let me go back to unfold. Okay. So you see how I kind of have this like split, like it's kind of like an animal, like, you know, those old timey like bear rugs, and it's like the entire animal is just like split down the middle and it's laid out flat on the ground. It's morbid, but that's kind of what you want to do with a 3D model. You're trying to do the same thing. You're trying to skin it so that you can lay it completely flat. And the more flat that you get it, and the more like nice and you know, uniformly stretched out this is, the better. Especially for the texturing process that we're going to be doing with this, because we have to do this in Photoshop, which means that we're going to take a snapshot of this UV map and you're going to hand draw your texture. Right? This is how we did it. You know, before texturing programs. This is the 90s, the 2000s, early 2010s. Like, this is how we did texturing. That's why, you know, low-grade texturing kind of looks goofy. And this is how you get, like, stylized textures. Because people were like, well, we can't render metal as good. We can't have like really good ambient occlusion running real time in game engines. We can't do a lot of that stuff. So what they did was that they hand drew the like artistic interpretation of the rendering and the materials. Like, look at Arcane, for example. Okay? None of that show... Hold on. None of the show... Like, all this stuff, all the lighting information and all that stuff, all, like, the metal and all that, that's not in rendering. That's all done by hand. So somebody drew the, like, light and shadow and how it interacts with things. I'm trying to find a really good example. Yeah, but, like, over here, the gold is all, that's all just hand-painted, right? Which gives you a very specific look. It gives you a very, like, you know, it's stylized, it's hand painted, it's World of Warcraft. That's why that stuff looks like that. So it's sort of hand painted. You're kind of able to get a really cool artistic look out of stuff with a very tight budget. Okay, and I'm talking about computer budget. I'm not talking about money budget. So if you're able to, you know, make things look like this and there's not real light and shadow going on in a game or a movie or whatever, everything is so much cheaper to run And that's why stuff like World of Warcraft and League of Legends can literally run on a potato. And that's why they do it still, right? Because it's an appealing art style. It just looks really cool, and you can run it on anything. So that's kind of why the style stayed even after we got real-time physical-based rendering, and we have like a way to render really good and convincing metal and all that stuff. It's here to stay, okay? So we're going to do, we've got this, it's unfolded. So basically, and you guys are kind of spoiled a little bit, honestly, because when I was learning how to do this even 10, 15 years ago, you had to do this all by hand, and there was no unfold. Like, Maya's got really good UV tools, but that wasn't always the case. So, like, let's look at this, for example. Let's say we had to do we go up here, we do like a planar projection. No, we would have done a cylindrical projection. And then the cylinder is going the wrong way, so we used to have to go and reposition this stuff manually. Hold on. And then run a cylindrical. And then only that would, do it correctly. And then we had to go in and we had to, like, physically move all of these edges and vertexes to unfold it. And that was, like, the worst thing ever. Like, you guys are so lucky that you don't have to deal with that. It's actually, like, super simple nowadays to be able to, like, have it here. It exists. You go up to camera-based projection so that it's in your UV. All right, because this is going to get changed. This is not going to be the final UV. This is never going to be the final UV. You got stuff overlapping each other. You've got stuff repeating. We don't want that. All right, you want to, like, figure out what your center line's going to be, because the center line's going to be visible. And you want to use that as a way to, like, split and cut as much as you can. Okay. So I'm going to do, like, for example, with this cylinder, I'm going to go around here, and then I'm going to go around the perimeter of it. All right. So I have, like, a cut that goes around so I can completely cut the cap off and have it unfolded separate from the rest of the object. That's the kind of stuff that we want to look out for. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do cut and then unfold. So that gives us... Ooh, why don't you work? Hold on. Unfold. 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 Okay. So that gives us, in our UVs, 3 separate UV shells that make up this one cylindrical cannon-looking thing. So it's kind of important to be able to, like, not lose your place, too. We can move that over here. And also, be careful of how you're laying your UV out as well, because you're going to have to look at this stuff in Photoshop, and if things are, like, skewed weird, or you, like, can't figure out where it's, like, supposed to lie, then, like, you're going to have a really hard time doing this stuff by hand. And we don't want that. We want to be able to open this and draw all over it and then bring it back into Photoshop or Maya. And maybe you only have to liquefy it a little bit, not like a crazy amount. Okay? So if I click on both of these, you can kind of see how the checkerboard's laying out kind of neatly. All right, that's the big thing you want. You want the checkerboard, which I'll fix that in a second. You want the checkerboard to lay out as neat as you can get it. And you want the checkerboard to also be kind of the same size between objects. That's something called texel density, which basically means that if I go and if I give one part of my object a ton of resolution, and then another part of the object that's sitting right next to it has less resolution, that means that one part is going to be all pixelated and the other part's going to be like perfect high definition. That is so bad. Don't do that. Okay? That happens a lot with characters and like hands and fingers. A lot of people are like, oh, I put all this time into sculpting hands. I want you to see all the detail. And somehow the hands and the knuckles and all that have more detail going on than the face does. In regards of a human character, what is the most important thing? It's probably the face, right? So you kind of want to, you know, when you're laying out your UVs, try to keep everything as uniform as possible. But there's only so much that you can do. Okay. Like that's UV decently. Let's do this little back part. We'll just do camera based. I'm actually kind of amazed at how easy it is to do UVs now. Like this stuff was seriously so hard. Like even when I was in college, like a couple years ago, this was so difficult and tedious and like the most annoying thing ever. I almost quit doing 3D work because of UV mapping. That was how bad it was. And now I can literally just click and then it just works. It's like actually insane how like nice this is. So you see how I'm moving this UV shell and it's like making the pattern sort of dance around? That's the idea of this, okay? I'm telling Maya, hey, how is this laid out in 2D so that I can project texture onto it and have it be in the right position. So if I go and I move this shell around, obviously it's going to move the texture around because that's the checkerboard. Right? And for little parts that you're never going to see, like the cap of this cylinder, you can do one of two things. You could either delete these faces so you don't have to worry about UVing it at all, or you could just make it so small that it doesn't matter. Like you have to kind of like be careful with your real estate, because if you zoom out, you've got all this stuff, but you're only really trying to keep all of your stuff in a 0 to 1 space, which is the first square right here. If you're going out of bounds, no bueno. No bueno. That's going to repeat your texture. We don't want that. You want to make sure you keep everything in bounds as much as you can. All right, so once I have... that kind of needs to be done a little bit better. Hold on. Yeah, that works. Okay. Once you have all your UVs like done separately, what I like to do is I go into object mode and I select everything and I go to combine. And then you'll notice I tried to get it close, but you're not going to get it 100%. I've got shells overlapping each other, so I'm going to go and I'm going to rearrange this stuff. And your UVs, like the shells, the size of them should be kind of similar to how the ratios in the model are. So if I turn on my checkerboard, the more real estate that you're giving a shell equals more resolution you're giving it, which means it's going to be higher quality. All right. So if I make this this like balloon part really big, okay, I've made the checkerboard that's on it the pattern really small. That means that I could put this super high detail texture on it, and it's going to look great. Okay, but that means that I've also taken up all the space for the rest of my parts. So that's not going to work. So you have to like really push and pull what's going to take up the most space and how this stuff is laid out. Because all of this matters so much. This is like, you know, how is your artwork going to be like accurately represented? You also want to make sure that none of your shells are overlapping. Because when we go to texture it, if it's overlapping, it's going to be showing up on other parts of your model, and we don't want that. Also, maximize your space as much as you can without overlapping. So I'm going to get this pretty darn close. Okay, and there's only so much that we can do. We're going to have, whenever we UV stuff, we're going to have parts that aren't laid out 100%. Okay, we've got blank space here, we've got blank space up here, blank space down here, but there's only so many ways that we can arrange this stuff that you just kind of got to do the best that you can, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's only so much that we can do. So let's go.
Hey, Mr. P.
What's up?
So for the ship
Yeah.
and everything, for the extruded bits like around the circle that like makes rings and stuff,
Yeah.
how would I see what that is on the UV map?
So what do you mean?
Like you can't really tell what is that extruded like ring stuff on the UV map.
So if you look at the checkerboard, and we could double check this in the viewport too. So you see how the checker pattern is kind of flowing over those features? Like it's not doing anything weird. It's just like kind of going over it like as if it was painted on that. When I went to unfold this, basically it did the unfolding for me. So let's grab this edge right here. Where are you? Okay. So by default, Maya wants to do like one of these kind of things. And like the extrusions like on top of each other. That's not good. So what the really cool thing about the automatic unfolding is that it detects, it's like, oh, these are extruded bits. It needs to all be laid out very nicely. So it goes and it does that for you. Okay, so you see how I'm like kind of manipulating this edge and it's like making the texture morph? That's kind of what Maya's doing, but the right way. Like, when I tell you that Maya has really good UV tools, people pay tens of thousands of dollars for studio licenses just to UV in Maya, and then they go and do other stuff in other programs. Like, that's how good the UV tools are. So, it's a really, like, the process can be very, like, complicated, but for what we're doing, as long as you just, you know, part this out, go to your UV tab, do camera base so you just get it in the editor, and then go and make your cuts by highlighting edges, and then with those edges highlighted, you go and you right-click, shift right-click, sorry, cut, so you make the seam, and then once you have all your seams laid out, all you got to do is highlight UV shell, shift right click, and then hit unfold. Don't hit unfold along U or unfold along V, just hit unfold, and it'll do literal black magic. Because, like, that process is crazy. Alright, so you see how, like, this is kind of doing the best that it can. Now, you have to be a little careful, because if I were to try to texture this in Photoshop, it would be a little hard. Because, like, let's say I wanted to put, like, I don't know, like what are those old timey World War II fighters? They had like yeah, they had like the the monster faces or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say like I wanted to put one of those like on the front of my thing here. That would be very hard to do because if you look at our UVs, how would you do that? You know what I mean? So that might be a question of, oh, I have details I want to put here. Let's unfold this differently. So let's just show that right now. Let's unfold this like it's a circular canvas almost. And let's do UV camera base so it's separated.
Oh yes, I want this tip of the leg to be most resolution.
Yeah, you see how that works there? So I go
I want it more resolution, better resolution than the entire rest of the ship.
exactly, right? So if I go, if I move this into position, I can put this, probably put that up there. All right, you're gonna have a different textile density, but I'm fine with that because now what I can do, let's look at this big time. Now what I can do is when I bring this into Photoshop, all I have to do is paint in this area, and that's where my texture is gonna end up. Okay, so just to drive this point home, let me show you what that process looks like in Photoshop. So I'm going to go up to, where'd they move it? I'm going to go up to image, and I'm going to click UV snapshot. Image format, I'm just going to have this be a JPEG. No, yep, JPEG. The size of this is a 2K texture, so it's 2048 by 2048. Don't go up and don't go down. Okay, we don't need to be doing 4K textures for this. It's not needed. I'm gonna hit apply, or actually I'm gonna hit browse first. I'm gonna put this in my my whatchamacallit. I'm gonna call this UV snapshot ship. I'm just gonna put it in my desktop for now. All that's done, I'm going to hit apply. And then Maya should spit out a JPEG of my thing here. Where is it? Why aren't you working? Oh, do I have to have it highlighted? All right, so I forgot. I have to highlight all of my UV shells, go to image, UV snapshot, and do all that stuff, and hit apply and close. And then that should give me a UV snapshot. Okay, so it's a black background, and all of the white, those are our UVs. Okay, so if I go and if I open this in Photoshop, let's just do that right now. I'm just going to show you the process. We will talk about texturing this stuff in great detail later, and I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and I know it's a very new thing. It's very frustrating, but I think it would be better if you just saw the entire overview process, and then you might have a better idea of how this stuff works. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. So I'm going to open up my UV snapshot. Not that, please. Okay. Now, I'm gonna use this as a guide, right? So I'm gonna use my Control So let's say let's make this part blue, and we're just gonna make this as ugly as possible. So good. So good. Unironically so good. Okay. Let's make this part
I see why you got paid the big bucks.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
They should pay you more.
They should pay me more. Why is this not working? I swear it's always something. Okay, paint bucket tool. Whatever.
I've never seen something more beautiful.
No. It's literally gonna blow your socks off. Okay. Let's do that, and then if I remember correctly, the thing right here, that's the front of it. Let me double check that in my UV editor. That is that part. Okay, cool. So down here, I'm getting the rough idea on where that stuff is. Okay, cool beans. Let's do a little guy right here. We're gonna make the window. And then there's gonna be a little dude in here. Okay, let's export that. That's gonna be our texture. Export PNG. All right, I'm gonna go into object mode. I'm gonna go to rendering. I'm gonna do standard surface material, and then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna click on color, file. Did it not save? Did I not save it right? Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
I look like a man.
I only sell propane and propane accessories.
Okay. Then we hit open. And then we turn on the texture. Oh my god!
It's beautiful.
He's just a little guy!
It's beautiful.
God, it's so bad. Okay. But like you see how, this is basically what we're doing. We're laying out the 3D model so that we're able to see this stuff. Okay? Now, if I wasn't stupid and if I had time, I would have sat there and I would have actually painted something really cool. But just for the purposes of demonstration, I'm just showing you how this stuff is laid out.
It's beautiful.
Okay? And I'm going to do a little research, and I'm going to make sure that we can't just texture this stuff in Maya, because if we could just draw on it in Maya, that would be so nice. That would be so nice. But before we do that, we have to UV it. Okay? So, just to recap, all you do is you go up here, you hit UV, open up your UV editor so you can see everything. And then once you do that, you want to separate your model out into whatever pieces it makes up. And then you want to go in, and this is all in my UV tab, you want to do camera based. And then you go and you make your cuts by highlighting the edges. And then shift right click and hit cut in the UV editor. And then once you have that, all you got to do is select the UV shell. Shift right click, unfold. Bob's your uncle. There it is. Okay. I know that's a very long and complicated process, and it's going to take you some time to figure it out. But that's the point of the streams, and that's the point of getting me to come and help you while we're in class. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
At least a little bit? Okay.
Yeah.
At least you guys can get kind of started.
It's beautiful.
No, it's so good. We're going to blow it up. Also, you can kind of see the seam. Can you see the seam on that?
Yeah.
Whenever we texture stuff, I'll show you guys how to like not have that show up. You can really see the seams down here.
It looks like a bubble.
Well, you're the one that made it.
Yeah.
Haha.
Very interesting. Cursed.
Why is his arm so long? Why does it come out of?
'Cause it's an alien.
It comes out of that.
It's an alien. That's why it's getting hunted down.